everybody. So I am now talking to you about what I'm grateful for 2024. I thought I was recording and apparently I wasn't, so here we go again. So what I'm grateful for 2024 is that number one, I survived 3 floods. Yes, I survived 3 floods. The first flood was a leak that occurred that created mold in my camper van, in my van, and then it was believed to have been a flood. So that was problem number 1. That happened in July. Then in August, I found out that my dad was ill, that he was sick, and that we were waiting to find out the diagnoses. And so there were several weeks of patience, and we found out that he had a bunch of different types of cancer, and that this cancer was not the good kind of cancer. And therefore, I spent a lot of days at the hospital, spending time with my dad and honoring him and his last requests of what he wanted for him, for me, for his family, for what his last requests were. So I began traveling back and forth between hotel number 1, which is in White Marsh, to go visit my dad in the hospital. The first hotel that I was in, my van was vandalized on the parking lot, and my stuff was stolen off of my van, video camera, which are the eyes to the van, and the certain belongings that were in my hotel room were stolen, personal belongings. So hotel number 1 was a disaster. They were not very accommodating at all. So I left hotel number 1 and I moved to hotel number 2. So again, in the same White Marsh area. In hotel number 2, which appeared to be a very nice hotel, again in the beginning, ended up having, problems of its own. I was put originally in a room that did not have any air conditioning, and in the middle of that heat wave, not having air conditioning was a deal breaker. So I requested to be in another room. So they put me in room number 2. And in room number 2, when I was out doing my daily activities for the day, I found that when I came back to my hotel, the hotel had flooded. And so I had flood number 2 in hotel number 2. At that time, I then discovered that my father, who was in the hospital, had multiple floods in his trailer. And so that I started to then identify the connection between a family, within generations, within, the firstborn, and I am the firstborn, and that the sins of the father travel to the firstborn. So I was being judged, and I began to really get into my Bible about as in the days of Noah, and I began to do more research and to discover what God needed to show me. And it was because I was personally experiencing these floods. At that time also, on August 19th, was the first day of my graduate studies with Regent University, and I was on my way planning to drive to Virginia Beach, and unfortunately, because of the flood in my home, which was flood number 2, meaning it was first the van, then my home, then the hotel. So in that discovering that I needed to be local to be able to deal with the contractors and help out my family in terms of what needed to be done for the home and for my apartment, it really was difficult for me to just get up and go and move to Virginia. So I stayed and I changed all of my classes from in-person classes to online classes. And again, going through that maze of learning how to use everything online was also an additional challenge, yet it gave me a little bit more flexibility to continue to deal with visiting my dad in the hospital as he was dying of cancer, and to be able to spend time with my family and help them in the ways that they needed my help. Then when it came time to deal with the end of life requests of my dad, me being the firstborn, I was definitely willing and interested to do and honor whatever my dad had asked of me. And so I began, fulfilling whatever his requests were. Some of that, although challenging, again, had its rewards. I'm grateful that I had all that time with my dad, and that we really discussed heartfelt things and things that were important to say. And I know that I definitely was there for him in more ways than one. My dad died on September 27th, 2024. And yes, it was difficult. I mean, when you love someone, you obviously want them to live as long as possible. And in this case, I was deeply saddened that my dad had died. I don't think that you really understand the emptiness or the void of death until it really hits you. And again, I'm very grateful for my family, specifically my mom, and for my friends. A big shout out to Kim, Chrissy, and Stephanie, Angie. Thank you so much for being friends with me. You were such a great big help during that time. And then as I had additional hardships in relation to my dad's estate, again, it was a very difficult time to find out that I was not invited, nor was my mother, to my dad's funeral and wake, and that it was hidden from me and my mother, and that my brother and his wife decided to do what they wanted to do, and we weren't included. So that was hard to deal with, and yet I put my faith and my trust in the Lord and what He's doing, and within my prayers, certain things were revealed to me, and again, I put it in God's hands, and I'm just doing what I know that I should do. In terms of, life changes, and sometimes we have to go do something to then determine whether that thing is for us, or whether it's the right timing. And so after my dad died, I did go to Regent University on campus. I did explore what it would be like living there. And for me, coupled with the fact that I had lived through 3 floods and had been displaced in 3 different hotels, and the last hotel was actually quite lovely, just that I had to deal with noise levels and walking through clouds of smoke and pot smoke every time I entered in and out of the hotel, because in the state of Maryland, certain things are now allowable that were not allowable before. So it was just really great to be back home in my apartment, and to feel like I have control over my environment and over my stuff, and to be able to choose and select new things, as many of my things were ruined from the flood, and to accept God's blessings and graciousness towards me, that some of the things that I got were way better than what I had before. So again, the truth of God's gospel, that you always get a double blessing or more than what you had to begin with. So I'm so grateful for that. So at this time, I am still in classes at Regent, and I have taken one of my classes and extended them until March, so that I have some more time to complete that class, given the nature of all the stress that I've been under. So as I work on that particular class, I'm not sure whether I will go back, part-time or full-time, or what the Lord has in store for me. But right now I'm going to concentrate on getting my business back up and running, and, serving the Lord in all the ways that he asked me to serve, and to get back on creating content and regular content for my YouTube channel. I also have gone through whatever the sickness was, whatever flu it was, I'm not sure exactly, but the sniffling, the sneezing, the spitting, the coughing, very similar in many ways to COVID, but real body achiness and tiredness accompanied this last run that I went through. But again, I was very grateful to have that time to be in my home, to rest after all the stress that I've been through this year, and to just have time to grieve. So God knows our heart, and he's a good father, and he gives us what we need at the hour when we need it. So my prayer to you, if you are struggling with loss and grieving and death and starting over, and maybe you had some kind of catastrophe or natural disaster, and you have a lot of things to repair and, purchase again and get your things in order again. And again, I pray with you, and I ask that our Father will bless us and restore us back, at least twofold, so that we can again rise up and fulfill his mission. And I ask this in Jesus' name. I hope that you all will enjoy your holiday season as we end the Hanukkah season very shortly. Today is the 7th night, and tomorrow will be the 8th night. And by really being in God's feasts and really understanding the feasts and understanding who God is, and that Jesus is the Messiah, he is the light of the world, and it is best to come to know him and who he is, so that we do have access to the Father because of him. And, there are certain verses that Jesus warned about. In the next phase, I'll go into some of those verses. So for now, thank you and Happy New Year.